Johnny Depp has finally admitted what really happened with Amber Heard, and his confession will destroy everything you thought you knew about their relationship. It was all a lie. But this isn't some carefully crafted public statement or damage control interview. This is testimony from someone who was present during a private moment in late 2024, when Johnny finally broke down and admitted the complete truth about his relationship with Amber, including his own role in creating the lies that destroyed both their lives. The source describes Johnny as completely devastated when he made this confession. Not the vindicated victim we saw after the Virginia trial, but a man who had spent years living with the knowledge that he had been just as deceptive as the woman he accused of destroying him. This wasn't just about Amber's lies or manipulation. This was about Johnny finally admitting that he had participated in creating a false narrative, that he had enabled toxic behavior, and that the entire relationship from beginning to end was built on deceptions from both sides. Because what Johnny revealed about his own lies, his own manipulation, and his own complicity in their toxic dynamic will shatter the hero narrative that emerged from their legal battle forever. To understand why Johnny's confession is so devastating, you need to understand what his admission of "it was all a lie" actually means and how it rewrites the entire story of their relationship from the very beginning. When Johnny and Amber met in 2009 on the set of The Rum Diary, the public narrative was that he was a vulnerable, recently single father who fell for a beautiful young actress. She was portrayed as the manipulative gold digger who targeted him for his wealth and fame. But according to sources who claim to have heard Johnny's private confession, that narrative was as fabricated as everything else about their relationship. Johnny's admission allegedly reveals that he knew exactly what kind of person Amber was from the beginning, and he chose to pursue her anyway because her chaos and unpredictability fed something dark in his own personality. He wasn't the innocent victim who fell for her manipulation. He was an active participant who found her toxicity intoxicating. The lies started immediately, according to Johnny's confession. He lied to Vanessa Paradis about the nature of his relationship with Amber. He lied to his children about why their family was breaking apart. He lied to his friends and business partners about Amber's behavior and his own role in enabling it. And most devastatingly, he lied to himself about what their relationship really was. But here's what makes this confession so tragic. Johnny allegedly admits that he and Amber were perfectly matched in their capacity for deception and manipulation. They weren't victim and abuser. They were two deeply damaged people who brought out the absolute worst in each other and then spent years blaming each other for the destruction they created together. The stakes couldn't be higher. This isn't just about one toxic relationship. It's about Johnny's entire public redemption narrative crumbling under the weight of his own honesty. The man who won a $10 million judgment and regained his career by positioning himself as the wronged party is now allegedly admitting that he was just as responsible for their mutual destruction. A confession that forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth that sometimes there are no heroes in these stories, just two people who destroyed each other and then fought over who got to be the victim. The specific lies Johnny admits to telling weren't just about protecting his image, they were about actively participating in creating a false narrative that made him look like an innocent victim while hiding his own toxic behavior. According to sources familiar with Johnny's private confession, he admits that he lied extensively during the early stages of his relationship with Amber to maintain his image as a devoted family man. While publicly claiming he was committed to Vanessa Paradis and their children, he was allegedly pursuing Amber aggressively, using his power and influence to win her attention and affection. The financial lies were systematic and calculated. Johnny allegedly admits that he used his wealth not just to impress Amber, but to control and manipulate her behavior. He would shower her with expensive gifts when she behaved the way he wanted, then withdraw financial support when she didn't. This wasn't generosity, it was a sophisticated form of emotional manipulation disguised as love. But the most damaging admission involves Johnny's role in enabling Amber's alleged abusive behavior. Sources say he confessed that he knew about her violent tendencies early in their relationship. He had witnessed her explosive anger, her physical aggression, and her manipulative tactics. But instead of ending the relationship or seeking help, he found her volatility exciting and addictive. Johnny allegedly admits that he lied to friends and family who expressed concerns about Amber's behavior. When his sister Christy warned him about Amber's manipulation, he didn't just ignore the warning, he actively defended Amber and painted his sister as jealous and overprotective. When his security team documented Amber's violent outbursts, he allegedly told them to destroy the evidence and never speak about what they had witnessed. The substance abuse lies were equally devastating. While Johnny has always admitted to struggling with addiction, his confession allegedly reveals that he and Amber used drugs and alcohol together as a way to escalate their toxic dynamic. They weren't just self-medicating, they were using substances to fuel the chaos and drama that had become the foundation of their relationship. Perhaps most shocking is Johnny's alleged admission that he lied during the legal proceedings themselves. While his legal team painted him as the victim of Amber's manipulation, Johnny apparently knew that he had been just as manipulative, just as controlling, and just as responsible for the toxic environment that destroyed both their lives. The pattern was clear. Johnny wasn't just enabling Amber's lies, he was creating his own parallel system of deception that made their relationship a house of cards built on mutual manipulation and shared toxicity. What the public saw as a victim finally getting justice, Johnny now allegedly admits was two liars fighting over who got to control the narrative of their mutual destruction. Here's the detail that changes everything about Johnny's confession. The biggest lie he admits to telling wasn't about protecting himself from Amber. It was about protecting Amber from the consequences of what they did to each other. But what Johnny revealed about their most controversial incidents will rewrite everything we thought we knew about their relationship. According to the source who witnessed Johnny's private breakdown, his most devastating admission involved the infamous incidents that became central to their legal battles. Johnny allegedly confessed that many of the events that were portrayed as Amber attacking him were actually mutual combat, toxic, drug-fueled confrontations where both of them were equally violent and destructive. The finger injury incident in Australia, which became a crucial piece of evidence in their legal battle, allegedly wasn't just Amber throwing a bottle at Johnny. According to his confession, it was the culmination of a days-long bender where both of them were using drugs, drinking heavily, and engaging in increasingly violent confrontations. Johnny admits that he was just as aggressive and destructive as Amber, but his legal team crafted a narrative that made him look like the sole victim. But here's the twist that makes this even more devastating. Johnny allegedly admits that he and Amber would stage some of their fights for the drama and intensity it brought to their relationship. They were both addicted to the chaos, the makeup sex, and the emotional extremes that came with their toxic dynamic. What looked like abuse to outsiders was actually a twisted form of foreplay for two people who couldn't function in a healthy relationship. The most shocking admission involves the recordings that became crucial evidence in their legal battles. Johnny allegedly confesses that he knew Amber was recording their conversations and that he was performing for those recordings just as much as she was. They were both creating evidence to use against each other, both building cases for future legal battles, both documenting their mutual destruction for strategic advantage. For the first time since their relationship began, Johnny was admitting that he hadn't been the victim of Amber's manipulation. He had been her willing partner in creating a relationship so toxic that it destroyed everything it touched. The source says Johnny's exact words were, "We were both monsters. I just had better lawyers and a more sympathetic public image. But the truth is, we brought out the absolute worst in each other. And we both knew it. We both chose it. We both fed off it." This wasn't just about taking responsibility for his own behavior. It was about Johnny finally admitting that their entire relationship had been a performance, a toxic dance between two people who were equally damaged and equally responsible for the destruction that followed. The source described Johnny's realization as devastating. He understood that winning the trial didn't make him the victim. It just made him the better liar. The evidence supporting Johnny's confession about mutual deception goes beyond his private admission. It's visible in the inconsistencies and gaps in both their narratives that suggest a more complex and equally toxic dynamic than either side admitted publicly. Legal experts who analyzed the trial proceedings note that many of Johnny's claims about being the sole victim were undermined by evidence that suggested mutual aggression and shared responsibility for their toxic environment. Audio recordings revealed both parties engaging in verbal abuse, threats, and manipulative behavior. Text messages showed both Johnny and Amber discussing violence, revenge, and mutual destruction in ways that suggested equal participation, rather than victim-abuser dynamics. Substance abuse experts who reviewed the evidence point out that the level of drug and alcohol consumption documented in their relationship creates conditions where traditional victim-abuser narratives break down. When both parties are heavily intoxicated and engaging in mutually destructive behavior, the lines between perpetrator and victim become blurred beyond recognition. Relationship therapists who have studied toxic dynamics note that Johnny's confession aligns with patterns seen in mutually abusive relationships, where both parties escalate conflict, enable each other's worst behaviors, and then compete to be seen as the primary victim when the relationship ends. The intensity of their mutual obsession, the cyclical nature of their conflicts, and their inability to separate despite obvious toxicity all suggest codependent rather than predatory dynamics. However, supporters of Johnny might argue that his confession is motivated by guilt rather than accuracy. After winning a highly publicized legal battle and regaining his career, he might be experiencing survivor's guilt or pressure to appear more balanced and accountable. His admission could be seen as unnecessary self-flagellation rather than honest reflection. While these claims haven't been independently verified, they align with multiple accounts from people who witnessed their relationship dynamics. But this argument ignores the specific nature of Johnny's alleged admissions and the detailed knowledge he apparently has about incidents that were never fully explored during the legal proceedings. More importantly, relationship experts note that Johnny's confession actually makes psychological sense. People in mutually toxic relationships often struggle with the victim narrative because they know their own complicity, even when legal proceedings or public opinion validates their victimhood. The guilt and cognitive dissonance of being treated as an innocent victim when you know you participated in mutual destruction can be overwhelming. The pattern Johnny allegedly describes is consistent with what therapists call trauma bonding, where two people become addicted to the intensity of their toxic dynamic and mistake chaos for passion, conflict for connection, and mutual destruction for deep love. In these relationships, both parties are simultaneously victim and perpetrator, creating cycles of abuse that are impossible to break without acknowledging mutual responsibility. The evidence suggests Johnny's confession isn't about false guilt or public pressure, it's about finally being honest about a relationship that was too complex and too mutually destructive to fit into simple victim-abuser narratives that legal proceedings and public opinion demanded. Johnny's confession about the lies he told doesn't just rewrite his relationship with Amber, it threatens to destroy the entire redemption narrative that restored his career and public image, with consequences that extend far beyond his personal life. The most immediate impact is on his relationship with fans who supported him through the trial and celebrated his legal victory as a triumph of truth over manipulation. Many of these supporters invested emotionally in Johnny as a symbol of male victims of domestic abuse, finally getting justice. His admission that he was equally responsible for their toxic dynamic undermines that narrative and potentially alienates the very people who fought for his comeback. Professionally, the confession creates a complex situation for Johnny's career recovery. Studios and collaborators who welcomed him back based on his vindication in court now have to grapple with his admission of mutual toxicity and deception. While his honesty might be seen as growth and accountability, it also raises questions about his judgment, his stability, and his ability to maintain the heroic image that made his comeback possible. The legal implications are potentially staggering. While Johnny won his defamation case, his confession about lying during the proceedings could theoretically open him up to perjury charges or provide grounds for Amber to challenge the verdict. More practically, it gives ammunition to anyone who wants to argue that the trial's outcome was based on incomplete or misleading testimony. But perhaps the most profound consequence is psychological. Johnny's friends and colleagues describe a man who is struggling with the cognitive dissonance of being celebrated as a victim while knowing he was equally responsible for the destruction. The public validation he received after the trial, which should have been healing, has apparently become a source of guilt and internal conflict. The confession also affects his relationship with his children and family members who supported him through the legal battle. They invested emotionally in his victimhood narrative and celebrated his vindication. Learning that he was more complicit than he admitted creates confusion about which version of events to believe and whether their support was based on lies. Industry insiders report that Johnny's approach to new relationships and professional partnerships has become more cautious and self-aware since making this confession. He's reportedly more likely to acknowledge his own flaws and take responsibility for relationship problems, but also more hesitant to fully commit to new projects or personal connections. The ripple effects extend to the broader conversation about domestic abuse and victim advocacy. Johnny's case became a rallying point for male victims, and those who believe that women can be abusers too. His confession that the situation was more complex and mutually destructive than presented in court complicates those advocacy efforts and raises questions about how society should handle cases involving mutual toxicity. The source who witnessed Johnny's confession described him as finally free from the lie, but terrified of what the truth will cost him. That fear isn't just about career consequences, it's about losing the identity and public support that his victimhood narrative provided. The most tragic consequence? Johnny's honesty. which should be seen as growth and accountability, might actually be punished by a public that preferred the simpler story of victim versus abuser to the complex reality of mutual destruction. So let's bring this full circle. Johnny Depp's confession that it was all a lie isn't just about one toxic relationship. It's about the devastating realization that sometimes the truth is too complex for the narratives we need to believe, and that being honest about mutual destruction is harder than maintaining comfortable lies about victimhood. Look at what Johnny's admission actually reveals. He lied about being an innocent victim who fell for Amber's manipulation. He lied about his own role in enabling and escalating their toxic dynamic. He lied about the nature of their most controversial incidents, presenting mutual combat as one-sided abuse. He lied during legal proceedings that were supposed to establish the truth about their relationship. Most devastatingly, he admits that he and Amber were perfectly matched in their capacity for toxicity, manipulation, and mutual destruction. They weren't victim and abuser. They were two damaged people who brought out the worst in each other and then spent years fighting over who got to be seen as the innocent party. But here's the most heartbreaking part of Johnny's confession. According to the source who witnessed it, he wasn't seeking absolution or trying to rehabilitate Amber's image. His exact words were reportedly, "I won the trial, but I lost my soul. Everyone thinks I'm the victim, but I know what I did. I know what we did to each other. And living with that lie is worse than living with the truth ever was." The source described Johnny's realization as transformative. He understood that getting justice in court didn't heal the damage he had done to himself by participating in such a toxic relationship. The public vindication felt hollow because he knew it was based on an incomplete truth that made him look better than he deserved. That insight encapsulates the entire tragedy of their relationship and its aftermath. Johnny and Amber may have both been victims of each other's toxicity, but they were also both perpetrators who chose to escalate conflict rather than seek help or end the relationship. The legal battle that followed wasn't about justice, it was about two people fighting over who got to control the narrative of their mutual destruction. The real tragedy isn't that their relationship was toxic, it's that society demanded a simple victim-abuser narrative when the truth was too complex for that framework. Johnny's confession reveals that sometimes there are no heroes in these stories, just damaged people who damage each other and then compete for sympathy and vindication. His honesty, which should be seen as growth and accountability, actually threatens the redemption narrative that restored his career and public image. Because admitting that you are equally responsible for mutual destruction is harder than maintaining the lie that you were just an innocent victim of someone else's manipulation. Maybe Johnny's confession will help others recognize that toxic relationships rarely have clear victims and villains. Maybe it will inspire people to take responsibility for their own role in destructive dynamics rather than competing to be seen as the injured party. Or maybe it's just the painful honesty of a man who learned that winning in court doesn't heal the damage you do to yourself by participating in mutual destruction. But one thing is certain, when Johnny said it was all a lie, he wasn't just talking about Amber's deception, he was admitting that his own narrative of innocent victimhood was just as fabricated as everything else about their relationship. Maybe when Johnny finally admitted what really happened with Amber Heard, he wasn't seeking redemption, he was choosing truth over comfort, accountability over vindication, and complex reality over simple narratives that make us feel better about complicated situations. So what do you think? Does Johnny's confession make him more honest or just more guilty? And can society handle the truth about relationships that are too toxic and complex for simple victim-abuser narratives? Drop your thoughts below, because maybe Johnny's story isn't just about him and Amber. Maybe it's about all of us and our need for heroes and villains in stories that are too messy for either.